So, what are some of your ideas to help the jobless situation since you were at one time actually the director of the Employment Development Department and member of the California Public Employment Relations Board?
Well, both of them are different entities, but if you just take the Employment Development Department, when I worked there, I recognized that small businesses, which is the engine of growth for any kind of a business, especially since we're in this recession, and officially it's supposed to be over, but we're still suffering. Tell those unemployed workers that it's over. I don't think they will believe you. But having worked at EDD, I realized that small businesses have not only an employer tax, an unemployment tax, a disability tax, they're taxed for everything. Every time they want to make any changes to any business, they're taxed, and they have so much regulatory things that are going on, and it discourages people. And what I believe should happen, that I do not see happening at the state level, are the courage of elected representatives, and I think they're representatives, not politicians. They should be representatives. They should have the courage to have sunset clauses on some legislations. A lot of things that they pass as far as bills that become cumbersome take on a life of their own and continue into perpetuity. And so we begin to tax people for entities that have no business or have gotten too big for their britches. And a couple of those entities in state government are CARB, and when we talk about environmental organizations, it's not that I'm opposed to clean air and clean water, but when they decide that a farmer who may spill milk has to be investigated because that's considered a toxic agent into the ground, and so EPA has to investigate it. When you have to turn any dirt over on a farm, and you have to have it approved by state agencies. When you have government trying to regulate everything, even the governor, and I'm not defending him certainly, but even the governor said you can't make a law for everything. They wanted to even have a law where a child on a tricycle would have a helmet on, which is the height of stupidity. And so I think they need a governor, a someone that will go in and say, look, let's do some real oversight. That's what leadership is. Let's look at these programs. Should they continue? Why don't we just get rid of them and streamline it? So we should have a sunset clause in some of this legislation, and we should certainly have a review process. And I don't think the government legislators are doing their job in that respect. There's agencies that I would look at very, very closely to see if we really need them and what their functions are, and have they grown too big, as I said before, too big for their britches. And so that responsibility, I think, has been shirked. I think they are too quick and too ready to expand government without assessing whether we need something or living within their means. I often use the analogy of your home bank account. If you can't afford something, you don't just go out and buy it and say, I'll have someone else pay for it later on. You say, well, what do I have to cut in my budget if I want this item? Because there are things that come up that government can provide for. And I think that as a conservative, I think that we have a heart. I don't think there's a corner market on social issues when you think about the blind or the infirm or someone that you may be able to help. But we don't want a lifestyle. We don't want people to depend on welfare and aid their whole life, where you have generations of people looking at it as a way of life. And so we want to make people independent, have that pride in having a job, and not have them depend on government. We're to the point where I think we're having over 50 to 60% of the people taking from government, and we're having less and less taxpayers. And governments end up collapsing when you have more people taking out than putting in, and than paying taxes. And so that's the system that we're going towards. I do not want California to be another Greece or another France or another country that is leaning more socialist than a republic, than a democracy. And
Mhm.
so I know I'd only be one of 80 people, but I think that with my experience and my power of persuasion, I certainly do believe that there are some moderate Democrats that are opposed to a lot of taxes for the working people. They realize it. And so I guess we need to be able to convince them to be able to cut back on some of these programs.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? That's when it comes down to it. It's not a Republican and Democrat issue. It's an issue of it's a matter of saving our state and our country. And there's a lot of really bad, and there's no fiscal responsibility at least at this point in this state. And so that's when you get guys like you in. No, I agree with what you're saying. Everything you're saying. I'm a small business owner as well, and I actually run a web design company, everything on the side. And I thought about leaving California just because of all the government oversight. It's way overbound. There's way too many taxes on small business owners. It makes it way too hard to do business here, and even able to make a profit and make things work for yourself. So it's you almost ask yourself, well, what's the point? Why should I keep doing this? And so yes, I've almost been there, but I've come to the realization that you know what, someone's got to stand up and fight it, because if nobody does, we're never going to change things in this state.